Hello, everyone. I'm Megan Wakeman, the collections librarian at CDLC, and today we are going to go over Dungeons and Dragons and how to run a Dungeons and Dragons campaign at your library, particularly if you don't know the people who are showing up for your program. Today we have speakers from Albany County Parks and Recreation and Amsterdam Free Library. First up, I'd like to introduce everyone to Olivia Downs, who works at the Parks and Recreation Department and runs multiple Dungeons and Dragons campaigns as part of her job. Thank you. Welcome, Olivia.
Hello, everyone. It's so cool to see so many folks from so many different areas of New York. Thanks for having me. Again, my name is Olivia. I am a program coordinator for Albany County. So, I help to coordinate a wide swath of programs, but I actually have come into this role. I've only been here for about a year, a little over, but I came in with a lot of D&D experience already. I am a player and have been since high school, so that's been about 15 years or so. I have a group that I have played with since college. So we've been going on, we play once a week, a majority of the weeks of the year, and we've been doing that for 10 years. So it's definitely been a huge part of my life. And I absolutely, agree with all of the benefits of it, being able to explore different creative ideas and expressions of self and all of these things. So, very excited that it has seen a lot of resurgence in recent years. For what we run through Albany County, we have been running youth clubs for the past few years. Generally, the way that they run, we do 6-week sessions. They're an hour and a half each. We were running them for 2 hours, and we just kind of found that by that last half hour, kids were getting a little bit squirrely. Attention was running a little loose. So we cut that down to an hour and a half. And our ages are pretty much 8 to 14. We have one DM, and we try to always have one assistant as well with our youth clubs, both to help kind of manage the group a little bit, keep everybody focused, as well as like help look things up and do kind of anything that you might need during the game, like looking up a spell or an item or something like that. And then we have done one session per most seasons except for summer because we just run tons of other sport programs in the summer. But hoping to bump that up to 2 sessions per season because they have been consistently well attended and always really sought after. So one of the ways a lot of the questions were about how to recruit instructors and how to retain them, or DMs. So all of our instructors are paid. We are able to pay them. That is, a big reason why we're able to keep them on. One of our DMs also instructs other programs for us as well. So we have 2 regular youth DMs, and we also just recently added adult clubs as well. So we have one DM for those. And we have up to 10 players, which it can feel like a lot. But we do that because we know that these programs are so sought after. We want to be able to have a wide group of people be able to participate, and not have it be too restrictive. So with that, because of that, there are like modifications that you can make to help with a wider group. Our DMs, they generally play campaigns pretty loosely, not like too strict of story or rules or anything like that. It's very casual. It's more about the group and the group dynamic and their own kind of goals. Um, there are lots of specific systems that are more geared towards kids. Off the top of my head, I know Kids on Bikes is one. Bubblegum Shoe is like a kind of detective style. So those are also options. A lot of them you do have to pay for upfront, so just something to keep in mind. But we go with D&D just because we already had all of the materials, um, and it's what our instructors are most familiar and comfortable with. Um, but yeah, there were a few other questions I can try to kind of speak to. So a little bit about like modifications for, I spoke on size. There are like a lot of modifications you can make for combat to make it more smooth. Like you can have just fewer, stronger monsters. You can use swarms of monsters so it can feel like it's a lot, but to the players, but for you, it's just really handling like a small group of swarms, like a swarm of goblins, and that might be like 7 goblins at a time, but you treat it as one enemy basically. Um, you can use team-based initiatives, so like essentially 2 or more people will go on the same initiative, so that can kind of help, like they can coordinate with each other. Um, And also, instead of combat encounters, you can also use skill challenges, which are, it's like, okay, so you have to, let's say there's a huge chasm and you have to get across. So you would have each player, like in initiative, kind of roll a skill check basically, and then you'll set a DC, a difficulty challenge. And if they pass it, then that's a success, and you can like have them have to get 5 successes before they get 3 failures or something like that. So that's one thing that I've utilized a lot in my games. Um, for like time constraints, because I know a lot of us have only, maybe an hour or two to play. Um, you can have players handle things like shopping outside of the game. You can like send them along with a list of things that they can choose from, and they can handle that outside. You can also assign players roles during your games, like timekeeper, note taker, researcher. That might be the one that's like looking things up as you go. Um, Engagement beyond campaigns, there was a question about that. I have done a couple of things with that. I will, again, assign a note taker usually, and you can like take them and type them out after to make them legible for everybody. And I've also had players like write letters between characters. So that's another thing that they can do outside of the game that kind of helps them interact between sessions. If you have like someone out for a session and you want to relay information in a creative way. And then there were a few questions about like how to handle violence and things like that, and maybe unsavory acts in the game. So with that, so I have also been an educator for many years. I was an early childhood educator for many years. So this is something that came up a lot with that as well. Like, kids want to gravitate towards like playing with weapons, using pretending sticks or swords or guns or things like that. Um, and ultimately, I have found that a lot of the time the kids who are playing these games, they're not the people who would be doing these acts outside of the game, and it can often be a way for them to explore maybe the more like mischievous or devious sides of themselves in a healthy and safe way that's not actually going to cause real harm, unless it's like between players. And that is, definitely at the top of a campaign, you're setting the expectations. I often will tell my players like we only have this amount of time, so we can either goof around or we can play the game, but we can't do both. And that usually helps them focus up and get back to it. But yeah, like for example, I have one kid who he is the most polite, sweet child, and as soon as he gets into the game, he's like, "All right, who am I stealing from? I need gold. I want to like have the most money in the world and rule the world, basically." Um, but it's not something that he would do like in real life, and I don't necessarily worry about that when I'm playing the game and like things get violent or anything like that. um it definitely like it helps to introduce the idea of consequences for your actions. So as the DM, make sure if it's something that you are wanting them to understand that there is a consequence for that action, like put the consequence in there. Maybe a group of guards like comes over and arrests them or something like that, and then they have to do a jailbreak episode or whatever. I have also used like inspiration if you're doing D&D. Inspiration is very helpful. That is something that you can award as a DM to players to have them roll with advantage on a skill check. So basically, like if they do something really cool or help a team member, something like that, something that you want to reward, you can reward inspiration. I've also introduced hindrances, which is basically the opposite of inspiration. If they do something that is like not really in character or is detrimental to the group, you can have them be hindered and roll with disadvantage on checks. Um, but yeah, I think that is pretty much a spew of information for all of you based on the questions that were sent in ahead of time. But I'm definitely happy to answer any more questions that people have now.
Does anyone have any questions? You can enter them
And
in the
feel free
chat.
to type them in the chat or shout them out, whatever works. One shot. Oh, yes. Okay. I do. I do have advice for, and this is one thing I actually wanted to share, if I can figure out how to do that. Um, okay. These are some of the resources that I have used for specifically one shots for kids. This is a great website, DMing Dad. All of these, he's like written out all of these different campaigns. They are all free. He does have a Patreon for support because it is a lot of work and effort that's gone into these. Some of them have like multiple sessions, but for example, I'll just pull up the first one here. Um, so he lays everything out, adventure hook, goals, setting, lists out some skill challenges you can do, and then goes through each of the levels. It's pretty bare bones, you'll have to kind of uh, be creative and improvise and fill in a lot of stuff with these, but it definitely gives you a great starting point. This one's really fun. Grammy's Country Apple Pie. Um, they basically have to gather ingredients for an apple pie. It's fun and cute for a wizard. And this is one of my favorites as well. This is from Wendy's. It is called Feast of Legends, and basically all of the characters are different kinds of food that you can get from Wendy's. And this one does list out all of like everything for down to uh, here's the DM guide. So it gives you like adventure, it gives you things to say. So basically these kinds of things are out there. Quick Google searches allow you to find a lot of these. Some of them are you have to purchase them. But there is a lot out there that is free. That's my recommendation. Like have something packaged up, ready to go. And then in terms of like uh in terms of having a satisfying completion to a one shot, um, depending on how much time you have, that is something that definitely comes with practice as a DM to be able to finagle. But I would say like it's, don't be afraid to end on a cliffhanger. Don't be afraid to end with stuff that could happen again in the future. The main point always for us and for our campaigns is for kids who have a similar interest to come together and like have a good time together. Um, we do provide our supplies. Um, there are these like D&D starter kits that you can get that have dice, a map, and I think they include um, a short one-shot campaign as well. Have we had any trouble getting players to return? Not really. Usually if they don't make it, it's because they were sick or they had something else going on, but players are generally pretty excited to get to come back. Um, yes, Mulligans gets a reroll for sure. Granny's apple pie, nice. Varied in age. So yeah, our ages, like I said, they go from 8 to 14. And we've actually had a few players who have been with us for a few years that have like gotten a little older into 15, 16 that we have continued to welcome because we know that they consistently attend. Um, Yeah, we've not really run into any like generally our groups mesh very well. And kids are excited to like get to know each other's characters and help each other out for the most part. So we've not ever had an issue with any age feeling left out. A lot of times the younger kids as well will be like the sibling of another kid in the campaign. So that helps as well. Yeah, thank you guys for all the questions. Feel free to keep sending them out. But I will shoot it back over to Megan because I think we'll get on to our next presenter.
Great. Thank you very much, Olivia. That was awesome. All right. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce Leah Fitzgerald from Amsterdam Free Library.
Hello, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen. All right. So thank you for sticking around to see our presentation on Amsterdam Free Library and Dungeons and Dragons. And thank you, Olivia, because your presentation is awesome. And the Wendy's thing sounds awesome. So yes. So today, so for this, I'm going to introduce myself and my co-presenter who couldn't be here today and introduce him because he's our DM. And I'm going to go over the background of why we started the program and the benefits. I'm going to go over Matt's slides. Hopefully, I can answer some questions in there because I've watched his sessions and stuff, and he put a lot of detail into the slides, and then finish with some advice that we both put together. And so, as Megan said, I am Leah Fitzgerald. I am the assistant director of the Amsterdam Free Library. I've been there for about a year now. And before that, I spent many, many years in the SUNY system as an academic librarian, where I also did a mixed bag D&D session. So if anyone has questions about that later, I can talk about what happened in the academic arena. And then I think I've been playing D&D for about 3 years, but time is weird. So it's probably been longer. And then Matt, who could not be here today, he is one of my clerks. He's been there for longer than me, so for 2 years. He is graduating high school in 2 days, actually. So yay him. And he's been playing D&D for a couple of years as well and DMing for 2 years. All right. So a little bit about ourselves. We're located in Amsterdam, New York, which is like half an hour west of Albany. We are the newly minted central library for the Mohawk Valley Library System, which is important in this story. But locally, we serve a population around 24,000. It's a high poverty area, has a high dropout rate, but we are currently in the middle of a major construction project to help alleviate some of that. We're adding a maker space and a business incubator and stuff like that. So, and then D&D will overlap with all of that as well. Uh, so why did we choose to do D&D? So our switch to central library required us to be open 7 days a week for 55 hours or more. We're open more than 55 hours because of that, it allows us to do the programming that we couldn't do beforehand and to actually do some programming based off of our personal interests, which, if we're not having fun doing it, then we don't think patrons are going to have fun doing it. So we were really excited to bring D&D on as something that we could do. And we chose D&D because it is mainstream. Everyone knows it. So we're most likely going to get more people in to play D&D than something that they don't know yet, which we can introduce later on. All right. And luckily, we did not need buy-in for this, but I know that some libraries might need buy-in, especially when you're like D&D for kids. Why would you do that? So for the under 18 crowd, especially with summer coming up and everything, it's educational. It encourages literacy and math skills. You're doing addition, subtraction all the time. You're reading things. You're comprehending what skills means. You're interacting and working with the story and coming up with stuff on the fly. Also promotes social skills, of course, which you can lose when you're not in school. And we saw what happened during COVID. And it allows for a safe creative outlet to express ideas and feelings, as Olivia was saying earlier, and they can kind of explore different outlets for themselves. And of course, again, educational, but libraries are a third space, so it feels safe and it does not feel like you're being forced to learn something. Instead, you're having fun. And of course, for the 18 up crowd, we're a bunch of librarians. We know about the loneliness epidemic that occurred, so this helps alleviate that. It provides escapism for people. Again, exploration of self in a safe space and a creative outlet. And of course, the routine. You have something to do every other week, they're going to do it. And then we do have overlap. My favorite thing about D&D is creating characters, of course. That's my favorite thing. And then you get to immerse yourself into a story. People love solving puzzles and doing battles and creating the story together because you don't know where it's going to go. Even though the DM has things planned, it could just go like this right away. All right. And finally, this brings us to what we ended up doing. We started with teens and kids with Matt DMing. So he did that every other Sunday with kids in the morning and teens in the afternoon. But we got lucky. One of our parents for one of the kid players was like, I'm a DM, so I would like to DM adults for you guys. So we're running D&D every Sunday now with kids and adults on the same day and time, and then teens on the opposite weeks. And so Matt DMs for them while Ian runs the adult ones. And for our advertisement, in order to get people to come in, most of our patrons are on Facebook. We got a lot of people that way. It was published in the newspaper, but mostly it was word of mouth from Matt to his friends and in their families. And then also our outreach person is wonderful, and she got a lot of people to come in that way. All right. So I'm moving on to Matt's slides. Hopefully it'll be good. So the planning, this is why I'm not the DM. It takes a lot of time, of course, to plan it and break it down. And so in the library, we do not have a consistent group as you would in other places. We have people coming in and out. Some people will play once, some people will play every other month, or we'll just have new people all the time. So the way that he has structured his campaign is to make it one big campaign, but he runs mini standalone adventures that allows people to come in and join the group as needed. So a new player will be, oh, I'm meeting you at this tavern. I'm going to join you today. So that allows them to come in and learn what's going on from the other players and practice their communication skills with each other. And so all these adventures will connect to each other, but it does not need to be it doesn't need to be the consistent characters that you are playing each time. And so, as he says, it's similar to the one-shot setup, but it's in the larger campaign that he has created. And planning. So he wanted to touch on using physical versus digital tools as you're keeping notes and how your players are recording their own stuff. He suggests to pick one, digital or physical, in order to keep it running so you understand what's going on each time and that he can help the new players that are coming in. He uses digital. Later on, I'll show you what he put on the list for the tools that he uses in order to keep track of his campaign. Time management. So all of our sessions kind of range depending on who is playing. The kids tend to go for about an hour or less. Sometimes whatever he sets up for them, they solve in like 10 minutes when he planned for it to be an hour, because they're so smart and creative and they come up with things that he would have never thought of. So he'll add on to it, but it's just always surprising. The teens and the adults run longer. The adults do tend to go for that traditional time, but it's because it's a Sunday and they have that area because we're slower. And teens can run longer as well, depending on how the session is going and how many show up for a session. And so in order to keep it contained, he does only do the 1 to 2 combat encounters if he is doing any type of combat. And if it is running long, he does get rid of some of the monsters or lowers the attack values of them, which he does secretly, and no one knows that he's doing it. And then he's always planning, because that's a big part of his job. So he has everything set up in a way that it's like, if I have 2 players today, this is how I'm going to run it. If I have 8 players today, this is how I'm going to run it. So he has a good balance in order to go. And again, I think one shot is kind of a weird way to say it. It does not mean that you have to do it all in one session. You can split it up, have that cliffhanger, and then you'll get to it the next time. Even if it is a whole new group of people, you can just pick up where you left off. All right, so some advice. So I'm going to go over session zeros, funding, DMing, and running a session. So session zero, if you don't know what it is, it's a pre-campaign meeting, so everyone is on the same page with the rules and expectations, which it seems kind of weird to do in an environment where it could be different people every single time, but we run them so we have something on the books to show like what rules we expect people to follow according to policy in the library, just so it's on hand. And also we have the list of rules for new players to go over every single session if there are new people there, or if there are people who are kind of teetering the line of those rules, to just kind of go, we need to, control what we're saying, if like no swearing or anything like that. So it helps do it every single time. Then funding. So it does not have to be expensive. We do not own any of the physical copies of the books at all in the library. So what we did instead, I would like to show you, is because we're libraries, we qualify for the educator resources, and this is how we got everything. So I'll scroll down. So they do have an after school club kit, which is great. So it gives you all this physical stuff. Takes a long time to get there, but once we get it, you get dice in there, you get the starter set, you get pre-made character cards, which is great if you have brand new players and they don't want to create a character. So those are great. But mainly what we love the most is this educator license for D&D Beyond. We get free access. We have the old 5e version, and the new one is free for us to access. And we get access to all of these books and everything. So you have all of those there, so you can write out your campaigns based on these as well. It's great. So I suggest everyone just fill out the form and do it. It's great. And then I also put together this list that I gave to Megan that she can share out afterwards. So we have everything that Matt and I use in order to do any type of planning and helping work with kids and stuff, and also some YouTube help. These are great videos if you're a brand new DM, you have brand new players. So if you're learning how to run the session yourself, watch these. These are great. She's really good, Jenny Dye. She has the newest rules as well if you're using those books. And these are all clickable links, so when you get the PDF, it's great. But yes, do the educator resources. It makes it real cheap. Yeah. And his, all right. So the role of the DM for Matt, so you are in charge of everything, making sure it runs smoothly. And so it kind of falls back to that session zero where you're establishing the rules right then and there, and you're keeping them up in order to work within your sessions that you are planning. And just to be as organized as possible, finding the tools that work well for you in order to keep your sessions in line with your campaign, who the players are, and just how to move one session to the next when, and what to communicate with players if they are brand new coming into a session or haven't been there for a long time. Right. And then running the session. So it's really working really well with the players and making sure that you are communicating well with them, trying to like break them out of their shells a little bit in order to communicate what's going on in there as well, and to modify it, especially for kids. And I was talking to somebody about modifying it, especially if it gets very violent or something. My sister edited a D&D show for a radio station. And so she's like, just think about it as FCC clean. when you're communicating with the kids. So if you are doing a battle, you just use words that don't involve like any type of violent words in order to keep it clean if you're worried about that. And to also just knock them out instead of killing them or just using a lot of magic that changes them into like good versus evil or however you want to do it in order to make it more family friendly. All right, so that is what I have. It would have been longer if Matt was here, but so you can email me with any questions if you're watching this recording. I will answer them and pass questions on to Matt that I cannot answer, but I will see what I can answer now for you if you have any questions.
All right, we did have a couple of questions, Leah. I saw there was one about players and their characters who would kind of come in and out of attendance. That what do you do about that to accommodate their roles as they're in and out of the game? I guess you kind of did that
So
with the one shots.
yeah, when I was doing the D&D for when I was at SUNY Canton, that would happen a lot. I also did not DM. We had a student worker who DM'd for us. And so whenever that would happen, he would say, "Oh, they would hang out with this NPC player and like, okay, I'm back," and like tell the story of what happened with them and like connect it into the greater storyline. Or like they just happen to go on a different quest and they come back and the other players have been there for a long time or the GM will go in. It's like, oh, remember when we did this? So they're practicing their improv skills and stuff like that. So that's what they do. It's just you're creating new storylines that kind of take it off to wherever it needs to go. Yeah. And yes, that is my email. I just saw it pop up. Yes.
I did change the settings on that Word document for people, so it should have access again.
Any other questions?
You see, Chris Tosh mentioned attack to subdue
Yes, that's a
is the
good way to
recommendation.
say, yeah. Is it typical for libraries to take on volunteer DMs? For us, yes. Um, like I said, we got really lucky with Ian and being able to accommodate his his child while he volunteers for us. He's a long-term DM. We had another person who wanted to do it who was basically a brand new player, so we had to turn them down and they actually joined the adult group. So it worked out really well. Um, but if you do have clerks, even if they're young, which Matt was 17 when he started DMing for us, and he told me, he's like, I want to make sure that, I wanted to put that I'm graduating in 2 days because like if a 16-year-old comes up to you, don't dismiss them. They might have some great ideas and work really well with the kids and everything. But yeah, I mean, if you vet your volunteers, like if you have a volunteer policy already established for your library, it's just a different type of program that they would be running. So you can follow that policy that you have and vet them and, interview them if you have to. And you can do a test run with them too before they actually run a full session if you want to. But yeah, we don't pay anyone, but we're open to that idea too. So if you have the funds. Ooh, yeah, one of my favorite ones that I've run. So the question is, have you created a scarier story than usual? And how did you handle the theme without making it too frightening? We haven't done that for the kids, which I think that would be really fun. I would probably maybe follow Scooby-Doo storyline, something like that in order to make it less frightening for them. I think that would be super fun. Or maybe like Goosebumps if they're a little bit older. Although someone read Goosebumps out loud to us in like the second grade one time, and that was terrifying. So in school. So that was, yeah, but Scooby-Doo I think would be super fun. I ran a slasher one once for adults. So that was terrifying.
Ray Johnson agreed that youth can have awesome ideas. Scooby-Doo is exactly what people were going to suggest. Personally, I like the mysteries too.
I love the horror storylines personally, so yes.
Does anyone else have any questions? All
Oh, I
right.
wanted to touch. Oh, we had the mixture, the question from earlier about mixing the age groups together. We had that happen a couple of times when the teens showed up on the wrong day for the kids ones, and they work really, really well together because it's the same interest in general, and they don't really care that it's kind of like less violent for the younger kids. So they love helping solve the puzzles and helping giving clues to the younger kids in order to help them move forward in the storyline and just to kind of like be there to like lift them up a little bit. So if it does happen, it's a good thing, I think. So
That's very cool. That's very relatable too, that the people come to the wrong group and that you
yes.
don't turn them away. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions, I will conclude it. I am dropping off a form here in the chat. If anyone would like a continuing education certificate for today, please fill that out and you will have one emailed to you, provided at the address. For everyone who registered in about an hour, you will receive an email with a very brief survey about today and any other future gaming programs that you would like to see here. And I will be following up with the recording and sharing that with everyone, as well as a copy of the document that Leah provided. I really want to thank Leah and Olivia for joining us today. This was sort of just a random idea I had. And like, well, it would be nice. And I'm glad that there was so much interest on it. This was really helpful. I think people are excited for it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks
Thank
everyone
you.
for joining.